My report is on Witold Pilecki. This was in a time where World War II, when World War II was happening, where there was a quote by George Washington when he said, "These are the times that try men's souls," when he was referring to the Revolutionary War. I would argue that World War II is also a time that tried men's souls. There are heroes on both sides of the combat, whether it was good intentions or bad intentions by the country they were fighting for. I want to focus on one man in particular, though, who fought for Poland, a country, when you read in the history books about Poland during World War II, it's generally they got run over by the Germans. The war lasted 1 day, 2 days. Poland was regarded as a weak country who barely put up a fight. But reading about this man who, after intensive study on World War II that I've already done, I never heard of. Reading about this man was very enlightening to what true courage looked like, to where he represented his country the best that he could, and it really put a new light on, for me, the country of Poland during World War II. So, the definition of courage I had was the ability to do something that frightens one. And reading about this guy, studying him, there were so many things that he did routinely that would have been frightening to so many other people. And it probably was frightening to him. But he displayed courage in how he was able to do those things that frightened him normally. He was born on May 13th, 1901 in the town of Olonets, Karelia in the Russian Empire, former Russian Empire. Life before World War II. In 1918, following the outbreak of the Russian Revolution and the defeat of the Central Powers in World War I, Pilecki returned to Wilno, now part of the newly independent Polish Second Republic, and joined the ZHP Scout section of the Lithuanian and Belarusian self-defense militia. He fought in the Kiev Offensive in 1920 as a part of a cavalry unit defending the city of Grodno. This man had previous experience leading up to World War II. He was already fighting in the Polish military and achieved a really high rank before World War II even started. He was a battle-tested veteran. Pilecki later took part in the liberation of Wilno and briefly served in the ongoing Polish-Lithuanian War as a member of the 1920 October Zeligowski Rebellion. He was twice awarded the Cross of Valor for gallantry. World War II. Shortly before the outbreak of World War II, on the 26th of August, 1939, Pilecki was mobilized as a cavalry platoon commander. He was assigned to the 19th Infantry Division under General Józef Kowalski-Zuski, part of the Polish Army Cruise. His unit took part in heavy fighting against the advancing Germans during the invasion of Poland. Pilecki's platoon was almost completely destroyed following a clash with the Panzer Division of the technically and mentally superior Germans in terms of the German commanders were superior to the Polish commanders in almost every way through the technology, through their battle tactics of blitzkrieg, which was a way that the Germans were able to utilize the mobility of their tanks and their units to surprise Polish and their outdated military technology and tactics. After this, Pilecki's platoon withdrew to the southeast towards now Lviv in the Ukraine. It was called Lwow, and the Romanian bridgehead, and was incorporated into the recently formed 41st Infantry Division, in which he served as divisional second in command. Pilecki and his men destroyed 7 German tanks, shot down 1 aircraft, and destroyed 2 more on the ground. On the 17th of September, the Soviet Union invaded eastern Poland, pursuant to the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Involved in more heavy fighting on 2 fronts, Pilecki was seriously wounded at the Battle of Tomaszów Lubelski. After the Polish government formally surrendered to Nazi Germany on September 27, 1939, Pilecki and many of his men continued fighting as partisans. His division was disbanded on the 17th of October, and with parts of it surrendering to their enemies. Pilecki went into hiding in Warsaw, and his commander, on 9th November 1939. The 2 men founded the secret Polish army, TAP, one of the first underground organizations in Poland. Pilecki became organizational commander of the TAP, as it expanded to cover not only Warsaw, Poland, but Siedlce, Radom, Lublin, and other major cities in Poland. By 1940, TAP had approximately 8,000 men. More than half of them were armed, some 20 machine guns and 7 anti-tank rifles. To maintain his cover, Pilecki worked as a manager of a cosmetic storehouse. Later, TAP was incorporated into the Union for Armed Struggle, later renamed and better known as the Home Army. Within the AK, TAP elements became the core of the Warsaw unit. Auschwitz. In 1940, Pilecki presented to his superiors the plan to enter Germany's Auschwitz concentration camp at Auschwitz, the Polish name of the locality. He was supposed to gather intelligence on the camp from the inside and gather inmate resistance. Until then, little had been known about Auschwitz. It was not known as the terrible death camp that we remember as it today. It was known by many of the Polish leaders in Britain as a large prison or an internment camp. He was sent there to gather more information, as there had been rumors of it being the actual death camp that it was. His superiors approved the plan and provided him with a false identity card. On the 19th of September 1940, he deliberately went out during a Warsaw street roundup and was caught by the Germans, along with some 2,000 civilians. After 2 days of detention in the Light Horse Guards barracks, where prisoners suffered beatings with rubber truncheons, Pilecki was sent to Auschwitz and was assigned to inmate number 4859. During his imprisonment, Pilecki was promoted by the Home Army to the rank of first lieutenant. At Auschwitz, while working in various commandos and surviving pneumonia, Pilecki organized the Underground Union of Military Organizations, ZOW. Many smaller underground organizations at Auschwitz eventually merged with ZOW. ZOW's tasks were improve inmate morale, provide news from the outside, clothing, extra food rations, and set up intelligence networks and train detachments to take over to the camp in the event of a relief attack by the Home Army. Arms airdrops or an airborne landing by the Polish 1st Independent Parachute Brigade based in Britain. Pilecki was really sent in to make Auschwitz a staging ground for an eventual attack that the Polish Home Army was optimistic about, that they could lead an inmate uprising and maybe support them with their own underground resistance. But unfortunately, this never happened. ZOW provided the Polish underground Home Army with invaluable information about the camp. From October 1940, Pilecki sent reports to Warsaw, and beginning in 1941, Pilecki's reports were being forwarded via the Polish resistance to the British government in London. In 1942, Pilecki's resistance movement was also broadcasting details on the number of arrivals and deaths in the camp through a secret radio transmitter Pilecki had set up. He set it up using smuggled parts that were smuggled in over 7 months to set up this radio transmitter to provide this information to the Polish Home Army and to the headquarters in London, to the British directly. It was unfortunately dismantled in autumn 1942 when after concerns that the Germans might discover it because of a spy in Pilecki's midst. Pilecki decided to break out of the camp with the hope of convincing the Home Army leaders personally that a rescue attempt was a failure. When he was assigned to a night shift in the camp basically outside the fence, he and 2 of his Home Army comrades overpowered a guard, cut phone lines, and escaped to the outside world with stolen German documents. This was on the night of April 26th and 27th, April 1943. Warsaw Uprising. When the Warsaw Uprising broke out on the 1st of August 1944, Pilecki volunteered for service with the 2nd Battalion. At first, Pilecki served as a common soldier in the northern city center, without revealing his actual rank to his superiors. Later, after many officers were killed in the fierce fighting that occurred during the early days of the uprising, due to a need in the army, Pilecki disclosed his true identities to his superiors and accepted the command of first officer in the company located in downtown Warsaw. Pilecki fought under the pseudonym Captain Roman. His forces held out a fortified area called the Great Bastion of Warsaw. This was a legendary area in Warsaw as they fought off many attacks by the Germans and were able to hold out for much longer than they thought they could. One of the most outline of the partisans' redoubts, the Great Bastion of Warsaw, was located almost directly in the city center. Plecki and his men inflicted some significant casualties on the advancing Germans, and they caused great difficulties for the German supply lines during this time. The bastion was held for 2 weeks in the face of almost constant attacks by the German infantry and armored divisions. In mid-August, Plecki's company occupied the insurgent stronghold in the railway post office connected to the Warsaw station. Here again, he and his men would hold out against frequent German attempts to dislodge them. Plecki would keep this position in insurgent hands for 6 weeks and was ejected only after a specialized German task force brought in and drove out the partisans using flamethrowers and explosives. After the capitulation of the uprising, Plecki hid a cache of weapons in a private apartment and surrendered to the Germans on October 5th, 1944. He was imprisoned in Stalag 8B, a German prisoner of war camp near Lambsdorff, Silesia. He was later transferred to Olag 7A in Bavaria, where he was liberated by troops of the U.S. 12th Armored Division in April 28, 1945. So his death and legacy. Plecki was unfortunately executed on May 25th, 1948. He was not executed by the Germans, in fact. In fact, it was by his own government. Now, this came about at the end of World War II when the Germans had surrendered. The Soviet Union had much of Western Europe under their control. A communist government was set up in Poland after World War II, and they actually began to hunt down members of the former Polish Home Army because of their resistance to communism. So, Plecki was arrested somewhere early 1948. It is not really known. He had a show trial, in fact, during that year, where many members, former leaders of the Polish Home Army, were given a fake trial that really didn't mean anything, and it was basically they were assumed they were to be sentenced to death beforehand. He was, in 1995, he was posthumously awarded the Order of Polonii Restitutia, and in 2006, he received the Order of the White Eagle, the highest Polish decoration possible. It is very sad and sort of ironic that he was executed this way, because he had fought such a long war for Poland, and in fact, after their supposed victory, he just had to start and fight another. In fact, this man, he led multiple plots against the communists already when he saw the communist uprising started, but they were unsuccessful, and he was arrested and executed. On 6th of September 2013, he was posthumously promoted by the Minister of National Defense to the rank of colonel. I've not heard much about this man, but it is obvious in Europe he is very well respected and well known. He and the other members of the show trial in 1948 were politically resuscitated, and that means that they were held in high standing again with the government of Poland. He was faithful to Poland to the very end. He never backed out of a fight and never denied an order. The definition of courage is to do something that frightens one, and that is what I should try to do more. God is going to ask me, all of us, to do things that will frighten us, and we should never back down. Alright, that's it.
Wow.